My words will never ever leave you in doubt. I don't see what all the fuss is about. I didn't know I had to watch my tongue. Now you know that I'm a loaded gun. Yeah, you know it's true. I'm too taboo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Revenue Hacks. I'm your host today, Calvin Taloki. Some of you may know me as Ref Problems on Instagram. I am a social media consultant as well as a certified hospitality leadership coach. I'm pleased to share the stage today with two brilliant people, and we're going to get into the topic of work-life balance. So nothing controversial at all. It's just going to be a very vanilla show, and with everybody's going to agree, and we're not going to have any strong opinions. We'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes. But yeah, I'd like to introduce my panel today, and we'll jump into this. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about. Ladies first, we'll start with Erica.
Thank you. So my name is Erika Bucci. I'm with RiseUp for a long time, so I'm happy to jump on this panel today to support this really important topic, I think, for everyone. And even though I might not be the expert, I hope I can bring some interesting, ideas or thoughts into this conversation. My background is 20 years in hospitality. Out of that, I spent 12 years in hotels, mainly in sales and revenue, and 8 years in technology, supporting the hospitality industry.
All right, and we'll go to the other variation of the name, Mr. Erik.
Oh yeah, I got my twin with me right here, my female version of my twin. Yeah, my name is Erik. I'm sitting in Barcelona right now. I am here to encourage you all to be yourselves and show up and really get out there in the world and do all that you really enjoy doing and love doing. So that's my work, that's my mission, and that's where I like living. So work life is going to be a proper topic for today.
All right, I love it. Okay, so we'll give the audience a bit of background here. This all started because I made a post on social media a couple weeks ago on my Growth Spot page and also on LinkedIn about and I entitled it "Forget About Work-Life Balance." And I knew I would get some pushback on that, but as somebody in marketing, I phrase it that way, so I would get pushback on that, so I would inspire some conversation. And my basic point was, I'll give a bit of my background as I share backstage. Very early in my career, I was a person who did not check emails, anything like that. When I was off, when I left the building, I was off, right? I hadn't gone from that. I hadn't gone through that progression of being someone who was, say, an hourly entry level associate into someone that was more of management and had more responsibility. I hadn't made that transition yet in my head, but at this point, I was a revenue manager, and of course, hotels are open on the weekend, so you still have to hit those goals. You still have to sell rooms. You still have to make sure you're priced properly. If you're with a brand, it's making sure you're hitting redemption thresholds and all of these different things. They don't stop because you're not on the clock that day. And I hadn't gone through that progression in at that point in my career, and I was laid off a bunch of times, 3 times to be exact, in a calendar year, and that will humble you real quick. And that'll make you say, hey, you know what? I got to make some changes. When I get another shot, I'm going to have to do things differently. And I did. And once I did get back into the workforce, I was able to progress very quickly from analyst again up to director, because I started making some of those changes. Because, hey, if I needed to work through a lunch break, I worked through a lunch break. If I had to check something on the weekends, I did that. And I did what I needed to do to achieve my goals and the hotel goals. So that was the point of my post. But of course, there was a lot of people. Work-life balance is a pretty triggering subject for a lot of people, and I think people take a very extreme look at it, which is what I was trying to cut through. So I guess the first question for you guys, I'll start, is what does work-life balance mean to you? And anybody jump in. We just kind of go, so it doesn't matter. Whoever feels the spirit first, just start
Okay,
talking.
I mean, I would like to say that I'm jumping on the one word that I believe life is very much about, and that's balance. Which means, and I think it's also one of humans' most trickiest and challenging, most challenging topics to not be so black or white, A or B or X or Z and everything. Like we always have this always or never, right? White or
Right.
black. So finding that balance in work-life balance, I believe, is really something for us to start seeing that the term work-life balance is old, and it's really coming from the time when life was really about grow up, get a job, pay your bills, and then come home to your family and enjoy your time. Life wasn't so much about having a purposeful, fulfilling, prosperous work at that time. Like we just have to go back about 15 to 20 years to start seeing when this shifted. So for me, work-life balance is really about, okay, find that balance for yourself to reword the concept for yourself, perhaps, but definitely find a way of enjoying what you're doing, both at work, at home, with friends, and beyond.
Agreed. Erica?
Yeah, I actually have to agree with Erik on that, that lots changed in the last probably 20 years. And I think balance means also different things to everyone, subject to your circumstances, your job, or even, your family, whoever is around you. And I think it is probably more important not to look at it just like Erik mentioned, my named twin brother, that, you look at life and then you look at work and you just say, okay, the two will never really go well together, especially
Right.
when you have people who really enjoy what they are doing and they are passionate about their work. And they try to also share that passion with maybe their own family to see what it actually can mean to have a job that you enjoy doing and you enjoy waking up every day to start doing. So
Right. And listen, I do think that it might be a bit idealistic for us to think that everybody enjoys their job and everybody enjoys their work and is excited when they get up to do it. Listen, I'm an idealist. I agree with you. I think that's how it should be. But I think the reality is a lot of people aren't, right? But I happen to be one of the people. I do enjoy what I do, and I when I was in hotels, primarily doing revenue management, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the strategy of it and stuff like that. But to think that on a Saturday morning, I want to be looking at an Excel spreadsheet, I want to be checking. No, I'd rather be watching soccer, or playing, with my dogs or whatever it is that I do to enjoy my time. But
Ah,
just knowing that you have that responsibility. Listen, the hotel's relying on me to hit the financial goals. I can't sit here and say, look, I can't spend a half an hour to an hour in the morning checking on things, throughout the day. And it's not like, hey, I work in the morning, I check where we are in the morning, and I don't look at it again. You have to check at night to make sure that, hey, have we sold out? Or operations calling you and saying that, hey, we're getting close to oversold. Can we close the system? You need to be able to be nimble in that. And I think that's what, I think we're all in agreement on that, where that you have to use that balance. And Erik used a great term backstage, work-life integration. You have to allow it to integrate into your life in a way where it doesn't become such a nuisance, for you to check an email, respond to a call, whatever it is. You do that and you go right back to your life, you know. And the point I make is, as far as balance, we do that at work. Nobody, I got some comments about, hey, I work 100%. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're taking social media breaks. You're taking mental health breaks. If when we were in the office, you're passing by your coworker to have a conversation about something. Nobody is working the entire time you're on the clock. So there should that same balance when you feel like you're doing your best job. But of course, you take a few minutes to do other things because we're human. We need to do that. You should take that same approach on the weekend, or on the days off. I'm speaking like a privileged revenue manager. I was off on weekends. Uh, um, But before we go into it any further, I want to have the conversation about a career versus a job. Because from my perspective, what we're talking about here is for people who are looking to progress a career, right? And I think that this will stunt your career growth. If you're a person that just has a job where you're not looking to move up the ladder or anything like that, taking that approach of, hey, I'm at work, when I'm done, I'm done. That to me is okay. But I'd like to get you guys, interpretation of what that means before we move forward, actually.
I think when it comes to, like you said, career or just a job, I think nowadays, especially the young generation, Jen said, they are always looking for more than just a job. So I think, work-life integration balance will become more and more important. But at the same time, I agree, if you don't necessarily do or take on a role because you want to achieve something in 5-10 years time, and you have this amazing goal in front of you to build a career, then you can probably be a little bit more flexible and relaxed about your approach at work, as long as you do what your responsibilities are. However, if you do want to build a career and maybe step up that career ladder, eventually you will probably need to make some sacrifices. But I think how you start this process at the beginning is important, because a lot of people like myself, they started really fast. They want to give everything. Like you said, you can never do everything, but you try, which means that the easiest you can give is your time. It doesn't mean you will be always efficient, but you think that because you do 16 hours, they will see it, that you are doing so much, and they will actually reward for it. Which I don't think is the case. So I think that's a tricky part when someone really would like to progress and maybe be very proactive or do extra things at work to show how much commitment that person has. It's important that you also try to probably balance at that point. Because then if you do too much at the beginning, first of all, it will be standard that you will always have to do it, even for yourself. I'm not saying from the perspective of the employer, but you will feel bad if you don't do the 16 hours, only 14 one day. And I ended up in that circle. So I think you need to be mindful that, first of all, more is not better. Efficiency would be more important, or quality would be more important. And I think that's where we struggle, especially when we are young and we have this fire and we want to just go for it.
Yeah, that's the great point. How about you, Erik?
Career. I would love to ask the question, what does career mean for you? Like, what does that actually mean and feel and equal to you when we are looking at it? I know what my mom and dad would say. I definitely know that. For me, I remember growing up and I was an autopilot to create an awesome career. That was all I had been taught from all the way up into, university. Now, what does the career mean to me, really? I mean, for me, it really refers, like, a career is just there it's part of what I'm doing to share my mission and my purpose to others. And it's necessarily nothing more to it than that right now.
Right.
So in this sense of work-life balance topics, I would just I think you mentioned that, Erik, this thing of being more thoughtful, mindful about why you do what you do, where you want to go, and why you want to go there.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and you guys both made very good points about this. I think, what does it mean to you? And I think a lot of people, I think there's an inherent pressure, like you mentioned, Erik, from society, your parents, whatever it is, that you're going to become a lawyer, a doctor, and you're going to constantly be moving up. And it may not be that for everyone. That may not be what you want to do. Some people find a place where they feel comfortable. They're not really interested in moving up to excuse me, into higher roles, and that's fine. But what we're talking about here and what I share, because I'm the one who started this whole mess, is for those people who are looking to continuously move up. This is what is going to be required. If you're not, if you reach a point or you've never really been interested in that, this doesn't apply. And don't feel any pressure to do things that like this when that's not really your goal. And I think that's, to Erica's point, that's going to create a stress that you don't need, because you're feeling this external pressure to give off the impression that you want something you don't really want. you know so that
Yeah.
being said, I do want to bring up Abe's comment about priorities changing throughout your career, because I think that is spot on. I think, again, to you guys are all making great points. I'm going to keep referencing, but Erik, what you said before about life being black and white and people being so extreme, and I think that's magnified now with social media. Is everybody needs to have a stance. I'm either this or that. When life is really great, you know what I mean? It's sometimes you're this, sometimes you're that. Certain situations you might feel this way, certain situations you might feel that way. I don't know any normal person who has these extreme stances all the time. And priorities will change throughout your career. When you start out, you may need to put in those extra hours. You may need to put in 16 hours, right? But you're not going to, I don't know who too many people could physically do that for an entire career, nor do you have to. Again, I use myself as an example. When I got back into the workforce after being laid off a bunch of times, and I got a director role that on paper nobody would have given me. If you just looked at my resume, there was few people that would have given me that chance. And I got the opportunity, and I knew inherently that without anybody explaining it, I said, this is your shot. If you blow this, your career is done. And I was working at a hotel that was just about to undergo a renovation. It was a first Marriott that I had worked for, so I didn't know these systems at all. I also went from basically a revenue manager to a director, which is a whole different skill set. And I was struggling early on, and I felt like I was struggling. And you know what? I had made a decision. For about 6 months, I didn't take a lunch break. I made a sandwich, I ate it at my desk, and I worked. But I did that for myself. And this is where, some of the comments I get back when I speak about this is people say, the company shouldn't expect that of you, or nobody asked me to do that. I did that because I knew I needed to do it to get better at my job. And once I got to a point where I felt, okay, I have a handle on this now, I can let go a bit. Yes, I started taking lunch breaks. I even went out for lunch, sometimes. There comes a point where you can do that, but you have to be willing to do that work first, but how has that been for you guys, as far as, what do you think about that seasonality of a career?
It did change a lot for me, at least, but I think it also comes with experience. Of course, I transitioned through different roles. So 12 years in hotels, it's very different from working in technology companies. So that's a big change. And, when I worked in hotels initially, I was enjoying all the operational, side of the business. I really loved it. I could have probably spent the rest of my life in banqueting or any kind of, operations, because I just love the buzz. But then I realized that, maybe that will not work long term because of the hours, you work on weekends. So not just weekends, but also, of course, holiday days. So I just decided, okay, let's shift to more of an office type of job. And then, there are, again, different type of challenges in an office role as well. And it still requires you to do long hours. And then you get into management and responsibilities, right, which is another layer. So it changes constantly. I think, and then when you move into a brand new kind of industry, like let's say the industry is the same, it's hospitality, but you go into technology, you also have to start this whole learning from scratch. And I think, to me, like Erik mentioned, career is one thing for one person, one for the other. For me, it's the constant learning and adapting. And this is where you can hopefully, with, life experience, get to that balance where you understand that maybe it's not a balance of 9 to 5 and then evening is off and weekend is off, but maybe realizing that maybe, today is Monday, but, it's 2 p.m. and my brain is not there to do, something for work. And what if I actually take a walk, or what if I take some time with my family?
Exactly.
Now, when I'm not very productive, And then I do, work maybe on Saturday in the afternoon when, again, everyone else has other, activities, and I have some quality time on my own, and I can maybe do an hour for work. So I think, it's that kind of balance. What I'm striving for is looking for, these opportunities where you might be doing things on a day that you think it's a private or a life, how can I say, the day what you want to protect for your private life, but at the same time it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that's the message as far as Erik's integration, right? And I do that a lot now because I work for myself. So honestly, I work every day, but am I working the same amount every day? Probably not. I do exactly what you mentioned. There are times where it's just the brain's not creative, and what I do is I'm creating content for people, and sometimes I just don't have it, and it's like, you know what? Let me take a break. Let me go do something else, walk the dog, whatever it is. And yeah, if that means Saturday morning, I got to get up a little early and finish what I was doing, then I can do that. How about you, Erik?
I would love to twist this a little bit, because this thing of like, what's the problem with work-life balance, right? Because often it's this thing of, when we're talking about this topic, it's because there's somebody that having a little bit of a challenge. There's a trigger there in terms of work-life balance. And often when I'm talking to people, I would like to ask the question, so why are you having this, like, what is it that makes it a struggle for you to have work-life balance? And often I get answers, or let me ask you, like, what would be a challenge to have work-life balance?
Not
Yes,
being
with
able
me?
to switch off,
Oh.
right? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Go for it. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like, yeah, I don't have, like, I can't just switch off, or I can't just do this for myself, or I go for vacation, and I need to be available if something happens. And so now we start talking. So work-life balance. No, you have a challenge with setting boundaries. You have a challenge to letting go. You have a challenge trusting your team. You have a challenge trusting yourself that, you know what, staying off your phone for one day. Like, I had a conversation with one of the collaborators just a week ago, and she got really sick. She's running events and so forth. So she said, I just had to stay off my phone for one day. And then when I came back to my phone, I only had actually one email that was important. The rest was just fluff. So I'm thinking to myself, I should really do this more often. And you see, so if you're talking work-life balance, we're talking about you setting boundaries. We're talking about you being able to trusting that, you know what, one day is okay. And if there's one thing that I really feel is a huge topic within the work-life balance arena, is control. That there are many people that struggle with work-life balance because they want to feel and be in control of whatever they're doing. So if we can really talk about work-life balance, I would like to lift some of these questions too. This thing of, why you feel that you need to be in control of all these things? Like, if you don't do it, I think I read a commentary about delegating. Like, yeah, exactly.
I was going to get to that. Yeah,
exactly.
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what Dylan mentioned about, mentoring, delegation, but also Custodio mentioned it, that, it's important that people who are responsible for a team are trying to create that environment as well, where people can help each other, rely on each other, even, you as a responsible manager with your team. So I think that both of those comments were very valid in that sense. And I think, like you said, Erik, letting go or setting boundaries or, losing control is definitely something that we need to address or question ourselves about. And I read a book which was recommended to me, and it's called Eat That Frog. I don't know if any of you heard about it. From Brian Tracy. And even that one thing, when I read that, I shouldn't read my emails in the morning and start my day with that, I was like, no, I can't do that. I had to kind of tell myself,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
can I not
Yeah.
read my emails? So I think
Yeah.
you had many valid questions there that we should probably even have a separate conversation about at one point.
Right, right. And I think we're getting to it now because there's so many layers to this thing that it's not that's why the situation can't just be black and white. Hey, I'm on the clock, I'm off the clock, right? Because, to what Eric was talking about, it reminded me of, first we'll get on the part of, delegation. Early in I won't say for everybody. I'll speak for myself. Early in my career, that was tough, especially because of, the background that I had where it was pretty rocky for a while. So once I had the responsibility, I didn't trust anybody. It was like, I need to make sure this is going to be perfect.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll do it all if that means at least I trust what's coming out, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go through that, especially early on. And learning that skill of delegation can be difficult because you're putting trust in another person to do something that you're ultimately going to be responsible for. Because if it goes
Mhm.
wrong, you can't turn around and blame your analyst or your revenue manager or whoever it is. You need to turn around and say, well, okay, it's on me, right? So that's a skill of learning to trust. And also you have to learn how to check their work because they may not do it the way you do it or whatever it is. And a good example of that for me was another one that triggers a lot of people. I did revenue meetings on vacation, right? So my situation was I was working. It was a very contentious situation where ownership wasn't the easiest to deal with, and I wanted to take a vacation. I put in the time. My VP said, "You can take the week off, but I can't handle the revenue meeting that week, and we can't cancel it because if we cancel it, it's just going to create way too much conversation." So my choice was spend 1 hour of my week doing a revenue call or not go at all. Easy choice, right? But at least for me, at that point, it was an easy choice. It's I'm going to be on the beach for a week. I'm going to take 1 hour to run a call. That's a trade-off. That's an easy trade-off. By the time the call was done, 15 minutes later, I was in the water and I'm thinking about these people who are at work, right? So, for me, that wasn't a problem. But then there came a point a couple of years later because I learned how to, I had support and I had learned that skill of, delegation and mentorship and empowering people. I took a 2.5 week vacation to Europe. I didn't check email once. I checked it the first day and my analyst was like, I got it. This is good. And you know what? I don't need to check anything. I can completely detach and disconnect. And I didn't hear anything from that hotel for 2 weeks, so I think that kind of brings everything what you guys are saying. It brings it all together. It's it's seasons, it's mentoring, it's delegation, it's this thing of control. All of these things play this part, and it's just such a it's there's so many layers to this that you just simply can't have the stance of, hey, work life, two different things. um One other thing I want to get into, because it doesn't it I see a lot on social media, somebody who lives and breathes content these days. I see a lot of things and I've become pretty um resistant to a lot of comments. But the one thing that I got back from this, which actually did evoke a reaction, was people telling me, oh, well, you don't have kids, you don't understand. um so I'm going to let you guys start first because I've been talking for a while. But what are your thoughts on trying to, I don't know if you have kids, but I'm sure we all know people who do. How would that maybe be different for them?
You mean not sleeping, hearing somebody who needs your attention all the time? You mean that part? That becomes life, baby. I go ahead, Erica. You go first.
Oh, I think, definitely priorities change for many people, but I come across so many women and so many men, for a fact, who do, dedicate a lot of time to their families, to their kids, and they are still able to build a career. And I think it goes back again to quality. It's not about how much time you put into something, but, how how well you can focus during that time. And we did a test actually at Noland, at the company I'm working at now, where last summer we actually took every second Friday off. The company just said, you guys have 4 days weekend, that's it. And let's see if you can actually do the same work in 4 days that what you do in 5. And it worked for everyone, no matter what department. Then we went a step further and we actually said, okay, what if we also, do maybe extra days you can take? Or, you have a lot of companies who do nowadays days for volunteering that you can take. So all of those days cut into your work hours, just like, of course, looking after kids or, doing the school runs and all of those, activities. And you're still able to manage, because again, it's not the time, in my opinion, that you put in. It's, how well you can pay attention and focus during that time when you work.
And I had a story during the COVID that really like ching smacked me to life. And this is thing of many, especially I was talking to a bunch of male entrepreneurs who were really speaking about intimate moments. And there was one guy who said, you know what, my marriage was almost like falling apart. I had kids, I had a wife, and at one point my wife was asking me when I came home, this thing of like, what are you doing now? Like, what's next? And the guy, he asked her something like he was on to the next project, and she asked him like, and what about us? And then he paused and just realized, like, shoot, here he is on a save the world type of mission, but he couldn't even pay attention to be present for his own relationship. So what's the point of saving the world when you can't even save your own, say, life, your own relationship? You have nothing to come home to. And I was sitting there thinking about this because it really resonated to me. This thing of always going out there, trying to be there for others, trying to serve others, trying to save the world and have this grandiose mission and purpose. But who am I coming home to? Who will remember me when I'm not here? And what will they remember me for? So Custodius' message here, I like that too. That, yeah, as a father, as a mother, as a brother, as a sister, whatever it is, we also do have responsibility to look at ourselves as in, what am I influencing? And the little ones, they are looking hard and they remember very, very much. So if you're influencing from an early age children or others around you to hustle, bustle, and not have time for them, that's also what they will remember. And that's why I remember this story of this guy, because it really inspired me to say, you know what, first things first, spend time with who matters the most to you first and take care of yourself. And you're already doing a whole lot more for the world than you actually think.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff that you're sharing there, and I think it's 100% spot on. I don't have kids, but I got a puppy like 2 months ago, and you talk about not sleeping and somebody constantly needing your attention. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
And he's never going to grow out of that stage. He's always going to be this 3-year-old that constantly needs your attention. And one thing that I came across, my wife was reading a book and she shared with me about child development and things like that, is a lot of times when they're looking for attention, you may be busy, just give them 5 minutes, right? And they just want to know that you're going to turn and give them the attention away from what you're doing, and then they go on about their business. And I started to be conscious of that. And with him, he's constantly sitting beneath my feet when I work. Most of the time, he's either playing with a toy, sleeping, whatever. Then he gets bored and he's like, okay, I need your attention. And he'll jump up, he'll start to bite me. And I give him 2-3 minutes and he goes back about his life. Like as if I'm not here, and I think there's just like a little example of what I think you guys are sharing. It's okay to take a moment and do that. But that's kind of what I was talking about in the beginning. It's while we're working, we take those moments for ourselves. We take those moments for our family. So when you're off, quote unquote, you're on those days where you're not on the clock, it's okay to take a moment and do what you have to do if it's going to help you in your work and in your career, you know. But the last thing I want to say about this thing with kids, it's as much as work life balance might be a triggering topic, that's a triggering topic for you know a lot of people, and I want to caution people about using that as the first thing to say or as a thing to say at all in response to this topic, because I don't have children. I haven't, we haven't tried, you know what I mean? But I know people, I have a good friend of mine who has spent a lot of money trying to get pregnant. Him and his wife are trying to get pregnant. And he has a career. He wants to continue doing that. So does she. There are people out there. You know, I have colleagues who are doing the same thing. I have family members that have been trying for years and can't. People want to have the quote unquote problem you have. The thing that you're presenting as an issue that, oh, well, you know, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to do this because I have kids. People want that problem, you know, and I think people need to be just a lot more sensitive to that, you know, and don't throw that out there as, oh, you don't have kids, you don't get it. Maybe I want kids. Maybe I want that problem. And I want to continue to, you know, have a balance and work and build a career, you know. That's just my, you know, I'll be on my little soapbox for 2 minutes. But other than that, let's see. Let's see, we got some more comments. Go ahead, Eric.
I think it does, you know, what Custodio says here as well about, you know, the human aspect is, and also what we were talking about, and Erik kind of scratched the surface there as well a little bit, that you do have to look after yourself and your immediate, you know, surroundings. So, you know, your family or maybe your friends or maybe your parents, whoever, you know, are closest to you, and make sure that, you know, you are okay, they are okay, and then your work will be okay. I think, you know, this whole balance we are talking, not just work life, but balance in life as a whole, it should start with yourself, you being balanced as an individual and being, you know, content. And like you said, Calvin, if you need to take some time out one day because, you know, you might need some kind of you know, help with you know, just to go for a walk, you know, just to refresh your mental capacity, then you do that and don't feel bad about it. And it's the same that you can take then a holiday and take a call during the holiday because you can then switch off. So, but I think in general, what Erik mentioned, and probably that would be my kind of closing remark here, is the fact that you need to be looking after yourself, you know, the people next to you, that they are okay with whatever decisions you make and they are supporting you. Because again, it's easier to manage those work appointments or, you know, those projects, if you have any, which take a lot of time, if, you know, you get the buy-in from your wife, your husband, your partner, whoever, the kids even. So, you know, communication is key as well, in my opinion. And then you have less pressure about this work-life balance, which everyone is just, you know, trying to push into the forefront.
Yeah, I think the issue is trying to create that rigidity is what's creating the stress. You know, trying to be on or off the clock. That's what's creating this. And I think and again, personal experience, the more you fight it, the more stressful it becomes. And, you know, I want to go back to something you said before, Erica, is I think it's a great point to say the balance starts within yourself. You know, are you checking email as soon as you wake up? Is that the first thing you want to see? And there was something I read in a book, and forgive me, I can't remember which one, but when they said, you know, email is somebody else's to-do list. And when you start looking at it that way, at least for me, it really helped me kind of put that in perspective. It's like, wait a sec. So the first thing in the morning I'm going to do is what somebody else needs me to do or wants me to do.
Exactly.
You know, you want to take that time for yourself. And in the same book, it was, you know, the first hour of your day should be for you. No phone, no social media, whatever it is. Take a walk, exercise, read a book, whatever it is you need to do, and take care of yourself first before you start taking care of the world and everyone else.
Erik, you do a lot of coaching. So do you have any tips for us and the audience?
First of all, is that you already know all this. That's the thing. Or I would say 9 out of 10 of you already have heard it several times. You read it in books. The problem is that you're not doing it. And the reason behind why you're not doing it, because you have a stronger motivation for keep doing what you're doing than changing that behavior. So as a tip here, as a closing remark from me, is to start looking at yourself as a question I often ask: what do you want to experience more of, wherever you are in your life, in relationships, at work? What is it you want to experience more of? Because your number one job is to have to start to create for yourself a vision, a future that is so desirable that you actually want to start working towards it. But I have been working with several people, and I had a group of directors just lately where I said, who do you want to become? Where are you going? And they knew the company's goals, but they had no clue of, and they were really struggling to say, yeah, but who do I want to become? Like, do I want to become more inspiring? Do I want to feel more joy in my work? Yeah, maybe. And you see, with this sense of awareness of who you want to become and where you want to go, it becomes very tricky to wake up in the morning and spend 1 hour for yourself when you know that your manager or clients are breathing down your neck, and you're more motivated to do that because that's what you know, and that feels okay to keep doing. So really, to everybody who's watching, a tip that I use for myself and also for those around me is start writing a journal. And by the end of the week, ask yourself a question such as, what have I invested in myself? What have I improved this week compared to last week? So that you start checking in to yourself what you're doing. Without the reflection, there is literally 0.01% chance that you will be able to create this thing of being and feeling a bit more aligned and in balance, so to say. So really, like, write a journal, reflect on your week. Where are you going? What have you improved? What really worked out really well this week? And then that way, start creating a future a future relationship. And this is another part that I love asking. Where do you want to go with your relationship? Where are you going with it? And check in with yourself. Otherwise, we can just stick to where we are right now. I love this show. It's called Say It As It Is. And I will say it as it is. You will stay exactly where you are right now. You will probably feel a little bit more miserable down the road. And then you will come back to somebody and start paying a lot of money to get coaching or therapy to get out of that.
I think that's a great closing remark for the show, definitely.
Yeah.
I think we will very soon run to the shop and get a book to start writing our journals. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Journaling is very important. It's been very helpful for me, so I can echo those sentiments you're saying for sure. We are out of time today. As expected, this was a very short show, and with not too many opinions. But no, it's seriously, it's a great conversation. Thank you guys for your insights, and I got a lot out of it. I'm hoping the audience got a lot out of it as well. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about something. I don't know what it is, but I'll be here. We'll be talking, and follow us on Instagram and on LinkedIn. You can connect with all of us. We can continue to have this conversation. I think it's an important one for us to continue to to have in today's society. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.